pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is to advise those present at this meeting of the Board of Education of the Pinelands Regional School District in the County of Ocean that adequate notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act. The notice has been posted in the Board of Education office, the junior high school, and the high school buildings. The notice was also mailed to the press of Atlantic City and filed with the municipal clerks of Bass River Township, Eagleswood Township, and Little Lake Harbor Township, and the Borough of Tuckerton. Roll call, Nick?
Okay, Mr. Williams. I don't see the virtual link. Is everybody on?
He's there, he's muted.
Okay.
I see his name, but he's muted.
He'll pop in a sec. Ms. Paklakua? Can you turn that up, Phil? I'm not hearing anybody's reply on the Zoom.
So it told me I had been muted. I did unmute me. I don't know if it's on your end now.
She's unmuted now. We can hear you now, Karen.
All right, we're going to start back at the top on roll call. Mr. Williams? Ms. Paklakua?
Yes.
Miss-
Virtual.
Ms. Chambers?
Virtual.
Ms. Palladino?
She said, did Nick send me the right number? It's the same as executive.
Mr. Brown?
Gotcha, Mr. Williams. Counted as present.
Yeah, thank you.
Hang on, guys. I just got to get this meeting link back out. My apologies. So Ms. Palladino is having trouble connecting, but she'll be joining us shortly. Mr. Rossetti?
Here.
Ms. Harper?
Here.
Mr. Dalio?
Here.
Ms. Hannadel? And Mrs. McVeigh?
Here. It probably would be useful for people who are attending virtually and us here to identify yourself if you're going to ask a question or make a statement so that everyone knows who's talking. Between the mask and the connection here, it may be difficult. So going forward, if you're in virtual land and you want to ask a question or make a statement, just identify yourself first, and we'll try to remember to do the same thing here. Thank you. With that, can I have a approval of the agenda? A motion, please? Can you identify yourself, please?
We don't have any official word from the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was asking if school boards had to be on here. Okay, thank you.
So that was a clarification to make sure that these services are still going to be on the agenda? Okay. With that, can we have a motion for the approval of the agenda, please? Motion.
Karen?
Second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nick, I have to abstain from A2 and B2 under the minutes. This is Pat.
Yeah, Pat, we're doing the approval of the agenda now. We'll get to that one next.
Okay.
Okay, that motion carries.
All right, moving on to item number 6, approval of minutes. We need a motion to approve the minutes of the open session for August 19th and August 26th, and the closed session of August 19th and August 26th. Motion, please.
Motion.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Mr. Williams?
He's muted.
Mr. Williams, looking for your vote on
She's in the waiting room.
meeting minutes. They have to let her in.
We keep getting muted. Like, I'm not doing anything, and I got muted again. So he might not realize. I don't know. if
Yes,
this
that's,
happened.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Karen's saying she keeps getting muted.
I won't take it personally.
Mr. Williams,
But
we're
Tom
looking
might be- yeah.
we're
Might
looking
be
for
busy.
Miss.
If you can, identify yourself before you speak, because we're talking over each other. I know this is difficult. I appreciate everyone's patience. We're looking for a vote on the minutes, and we're looking for Mr. Williams to vote.
Mr. Williams,
Nick?
there you go.
Yes, sir.
Brown, I don't know why, but it keeps saying that the meeting will start for me in a few seconds, and then it come up muted, unmuted, muted, and your meeting should start. So anyhow, 19th, I have to abstain on, 26th regular, yes, 26th executive, absolutely not.
So abstain, 8:19. Yes, 8:26 regular. No, 8:26
Yes.
executive.
Yes, regular, no executive.
You got it. Your vote is recorded. Ms. Paklakua?
I am a yes, with the exception of B2, executive on the 26th. I will abstain. I did not participate.
Ms. Chambers?
Yes, but I'll abstain, like I said before, on A2 and B2. I'm sorry about the interruption before.
Ms. Palladino? She in?
She's in, but I don't know if she knows she's muted.
We'll get back to her. Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Ms. Harper?
Yes, I also need to abstain on A2 and B2.
A2 and B2?
Yes, I was not present.
Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Ms. Hannadel?
Yes.
Mrs. McVeigh?
Yes.
She said she's unmuted in her phone. I don't know why can we unmute Mrs. Palladino somehow? I don't think we can.
Is that the phone number?
Yes.
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 I can ask to unmute, but I can't unmute.
All right, he put in a request to unmute you.
Are we unable to hear Ms. Palladino at this time?
Should she try calling in again, or can I call her from my phone? What would work? She said her phone is unmuted, but on here it is. Am I unable, can I call her on the phone?
Absolutely.
So, Melissa, it's Karen.
Yes.
I just have a thought. Is her phone unmuted?
No,
But
she said her phone is fine.
Right, but her phone might be unmuted, but if she's on the app, through the app, there's a separate button for mute and unmute.
Yeah, she's
Separate.
having difficulty. Let me call her. Because she can hear Nick. I'll put the phone by him. Hey, you're on speakerphone. I'm going to put my phone next to Nick so you can hear the meeting.
Ms. Palladino, we're voting on the minutes that are up for approval for regular and executive sessions from August 19th and August 26th. No problem. Those motions carry. Sorry for the delay, Ms. McVeigh. The floor is yours.
That's quite all right. And just in case everybody didn't hear that, she voted yes on the minutes. All righty, moving along to the report of the superintendent. I give you Dr. McCauley.
Thank you. Hopefully everybody can hear me. It's difficult with the mask. We're doing our best. I do have some updates, some positive news. The board graciously agreed this past year to reimburse any of our students taking the AP exams that received a 3 or better, which is a passing score. So we are so proud to announce that over 100 students received a 3 or better on an AP exam, some students on more than one test. So this is a significant savings to the student and reimbursement to the parent, and it is a great incentive, and obviously we had 100 students score that, so that's amazing. I am going to be giving the board an assessment and data update next month. This month, all of our students, whether they're virtual or in person, are taking a multitude of assessments, and I'm going to let the board know that benchmark data, and then we can go from there and get mid-year and final data. Wipes have been replaced when all classrooms. I know I've been updating the board on that as it's been happening. Teachers now have wipes that they're more comfortable with, and students are able to use them as well. And lastly, I do have something I put together, please bear with me, regarding my contract. I have posted the required 30-day public notice to make changes to my current contract at the October board meeting. As previously discussed, I am not requesting any changes other than an extension. I want to remind the board that Pinelands is only responsible for half of my salary, which is $94,000. The desire to extend my contract at this time comes with only good intentions. In an arduous time with so much stress and uncertainty, numerous superintendents are retiring and resigning. I would like to show the board and the community that I am fully devoted to Pinelands and would like to be here to see the district through this pandemic and rebuild afterwards. I can assure you there is no malfeasance associated with my request to extend my contract. I am not requesting an increase in compensation. Furthermore, my combined salary for both districts is in line with my counterparts in Ocean County, who are only responsible for one school district. The Pinelands School District has made significant strides over the past 2 years. I have read this extensive list at a previous board meeting. As promised, when I interviewed for this position, programs have been brought in to meet the needs of all students. JAGs, dual enrollment academies, increased attendance, positive incentives, and a mental health expert are just a few of many. The comprehensive evaluations that were given to me by the board have been superior. With an open door policy, I am always available to listen to concerns from the board and the community. Overall, the feedback I have received is extremely positive. The bar has been raised at Pinelands. High expectations are set for both students and staff. This necessary change does not come easy, nor does it take place overnight. It includes making tough decisions in regards to staffing and can cause disdain for some. Unfortunately, disdain can quickly turn into animosity and vengeance. The Board of Education hired me to complete numerous tasks, including improving the appearance and reputation of Pinelands. Many things have been implemented to do just that. Pinelands has had 7 superintendents over an 18-year period. Please note, the terms of a superintendent's contract are 3 to 5 years. It is essential for Pinelands to have and maintain consistent leadership. Pinelands is in my heart and where I want to stay. The administrative team, the staff, and the community are amazing. Numerous shared services have been implemented to save the taxpayer money and provide continuity. There are so many progressive and much-needed programs started that need to be seen through. I am asking for more time to see through what has been started. I want to thank the board for all of your support. As always, if the board or community members have questions or concerns, please contact me. I look forward to speaking with you. Thank you for your time. Ms. McVeigh, it's all yours.
All righty. The presentations, they're virtual.
So Ms. Kenny has linked two presentations for the board and the community. One is the SSDS report, which is required. The other is an informational spreadsheet on our graduates and pathways. So those are there for you to view on your own time. And we have Ms. Thea Gleason, who would like some time to address the board. So Thea, if you're there, can you unmute yourself? And if you'd like to share your video, that'd be great. There she is.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
That's the new how you do it.
Thank you for a minute. I just wanted to tell the story that was slow coming of the soon-to-be little free library that the English Club will be installing at the Little Treasure Park, which was recently renovated in Mystic Island. We had a lot of fundraisers, we raised a ton of money, which I think was a lot, selling craft bags, flip-flops, bracelets, and we couldn't put these tables in, but we still have more money, that we have to spend for the park. So we purchased a little free library that we're going to steward. We have a ton of donated used children's books to keep it filled. And this has been the culmination of 7 years saving money and making improvements, building literacy. And so I invite you all to use it as well. I don't know if you heard all that because I'm getting slow internet connection with this work.
So Thea, I'm going to kind of paraphrase for our viewers at home because of all the hard work you do. I don't want them to not be able to hear this. So Ms. Gleason and her English department club have been fundraising for many years. And what they are going to do tonight is they're going to donate a free library that they built and put together to the township. So this will be housed in Mystic Islands, and they will continually upkeep this and replenish it with books for the community members to go borrow, to share, and just to read. So she wanted to present this tonight because of all their hard work to the community and to the board. We today got an agreement that our attorney graciously drew up. The township just wanted something in writing that said we were responsible for replacing the books and to ensure that the library was kept up. So that is done. Ms. Gleason is able to donate her free library, and that agreement will be on the agenda for October for the board to see.
Awesome.
It's going to be in Mystic Islands at the park. Ms. Gleason, what's the name of the park it's going to be at?
I think it was Little Treasures.
Little Treasures? Okay, got it.
It's at the Little Treasure Park.
Okay, awesome.
Little Treasures Playground in the park.
Great, great. So thank you so much for you and for your club for all the hard work. And once we have that donated, we can get some photos and share that with the board and the community. All right, thank you, Ms. Gleason.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, who do we have?
Read the book.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to move along to board forum. Do any board members have anything for the greater good? Okay, I real quick would like to just say a couple things. As we all know, we had training not too long ago on school ethics, and it's important that we always remember that we are governed by the Code of Ethics for school board members. So what I thought I would do, maybe just each meeting, is hit on a couple of these just as a reminder. And if anybody doesn't understand what they mean or needs some help with these, maybe we could discuss them. So just real quick, I'd like to say that one of the Code of Ethics for school board members is I will make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and will seek to develop and maintain public schools that meet the individual needs of all children, regardless of their ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing. I will confine my board action to policy making, planning, and appraisal. I will help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted with those who will be affected by them. I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are well run. I will recognize that the authority rests with the Board of Education and will make no personal promises nor take any private action that may compromise the board. And lastly, I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools, which if disclosed would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In all other matters, I will provide accurate information in concert with my fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of the community for its school. So those are just a few of the Code of Ethics. I just wanted to make sure and remind ourselves that we operate as a board and not as individual board members. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about just a little review of the Code of Ethics for school board members? All righty. A couple other things I'd like to do is I'd like to thank Rachel. She recently attended, Rachel Harper, the Ocean and Monmouth Ocean County Board meeting on September 17th. It discussed was the reopening of schools with a member of the Board of Health being there. In addition, Rachel shared the NJSBA's virtual workshop schedule, which is scheduled for October 20th through the 22nd. Imagine, Create, and Lead is what the workshop will be hoping to address. We'll be discussing this a little bit further, but there are opportunities for training for board members with the virtual workshop. I'd like to thank all the board members who supported the effort to save the state funding for school-based youth services. Kudos to Kim Hanadel. She's very modest, and I know she doesn't want to take any credit, but she led a statewide effort to get that funding restored, and we're hoping that in fact is going to happen. She called anybody who would listen to try to make sure that she saved that funding, not only for Pinelands, but for 100 other New Jersey school districts that provide services for mental health and social, emotional needs of students and their families. During these times, it's critical that we're able to address these concerns, and hopefully that funding will be restored. But Kim went above and beyond to make that happen, and she should be recognized for that. I'd also like to thank the Budget Committee who recently met. On the agenda to discuss were the state cuts and what we would need to do. I'd like to thank August Dalio, Tom Rossetti, and Christy Patalino for all their time and energy that they spend serving on this committee. It's much appreciated. Thank you.
Can I add something to that, Betty?
You certainly can.
And I do agree that Kim is very modest and doesn't like to share some of her accomplishments. And we're always accomplishing our students and the staff, and kudos where kudos is deserved. Senator Sweeney was pivotal in helping us get the funding for the consolidation study, which was $90,000, and that could ultimately really help our community in many ways. And Kim was the one that was in his ear and got him down here to come and see our district and to listen to us. So she really does put herself out there, and she doesn't take no for an answer, so thank you for your help with that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion under the board forum? All right,
Yes, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay, I have a
going-
couple items, actually three. First one, when did the budget committee meet? Was it recently?
It was the Finance Committee met last Wednesday, the 16th, I believe.
Oh, okay, okay, I wasn't aware of that. Okay, great,
Excuse
thank
me,
you.
Pat, just a second, Pat. It's the next thing on the agenda to discuss.
Okay, all right, second item, I'd like to discuss the random drug testing policy. Do you want to wait until that comes up under instructional, under A1, or do you want to discuss now?
I would think it would be better discussed when we get to that committee report.
Okay, sure, no problem. Third thing I asked for discussion under board forum tonight was the change in the October meeting date. I guess my first question is, was this decided at the last board meeting in August? What time and I guess the date that was convenient for everybody?
Do you want to answer that, Betty, or do you want me to jump in?
If you don't mind.
Yeah, so since the last meeting, we did hear from one of our board members that they had a conflict with the October meeting and asked to change it. So I did speak with President McVeigh. Mr. Brown put the information out there, and we felt that it was enough notice. It was a month and a half to give everyone for the change.
Sorry, no, my question
I
was,
would just appreciate, we've had a number of changes with the board meeting dates. It would be much appreciated if you could reach out to board members to say, is there an issue or is there a conflict?
So I think,
Before
Karen,
the date was actually selected.
I think when we sent the email out, we did say that, if there were any concerns with that, to let us know. No one responded.
You said it was going to be October 30th that there's a change.
I think we did say to
Right,
reach out.
I agree, it's plenty of time. I am trying to
Well, it said
accommodate the
it's not any
schedule, but it's just a little bit of consideration with the schedules, especially with what we
Did you
just
send
went
that
through
out?
juggling for August.
Did we ask if there was
I
questions?
know everybody's busy. I'm sure it's, all of us. Just really want to try to make sure that we can all participate.
No, that's understood.
my question was this discussed with the board at the last August meeting, which I believe was the 26th, on what was convenient for everybody for the October meeting? Was this brought up for discussion?
No,
The board of the whole?
not that I recall.
Okay, because I was absent, but then was there, other than the email that told us that it was changed to the 30th, did I miss an email that went out to all of us asking us if it was convenient for us?
Mr. Brown, when you sent the email out, did it say, is this convenient for everyone, or did it just have a date change?
I announced the date, and I believe I had asked if there was any conflicts with the date to have, that board members could notify me.
So did we always ask before? Is
Yeah.
that the point? Sorry, it's Kim.
And I guess, I'm sorry, what was your question, Kim?
I'm just asking, was it always asked in an email ahead of time? I'm thinking maybe it was.
Well, I mean, we have
Yes.
done them in the past, yes, but I know if there's a change in the meeting schedule, because we approved the meeting schedule, I guess, back in January, and then it was amended in February. Usually it's talked about at the Board of the Whole, and we always are asked if it's convenient for us. And I noticed, again, I don't know if it was discussed on the 26th, that's why I asked. I don't recall an email asking, initially, was it okay? Did the board agree? What is the reason that it was changed?
I think I said that in the beginning. One of the board members has a conflict with work and asked if it can be changed to a different date.
So it's being changed from, and correct me, was it the 21st?
It was the 23rd, I believe, that Wednesday, and it's being changed to the 30th.
Okay, because one board member can't make the 23rd meeting.
And I do think it's ample notice. I mean, we've had board members that have emailed Betty in an hour before the meeting and said they weren't coming.
I guess I can own this, maybe.
Sure,
I thought
Friday
it was,
night.
this is Betty Ann speaking, I thought it was enough notice. It's been since, COVID, that we've had people miss meetings, consistent virtual attendance at meetings. I, I thought there'd be enough notice between now and October 30th or the 23rd for people to be able to adjust their schedules. This person did request it in plenty of time. Going forward, if that needs to happen, I will make sure to poll the board and make sure it's convenient for everyone. I just thought enough notice was given, and we have all been so adaptable over the last 6-8 months in trying to figure out how to get together. I know there's been, a few meetings missed by people, and I wanted to do everything we could do for somebody who took the time and energy 6 weeks in advance to request that the meeting be changed. So if it's a hardship, I apologize, and going forward, I'll make sure to poll the board.
Now, for moving it to a Friday evening, I mean, I know it's the last
Yep, Mrs.
working day before vacation.
Ms. Chambers, I think Ms. Palladino, she wants to be able to speak for 1 minute. Is that okay? All right, I'm going to put the speaker next to the phone, see if this works. Go ahead.
Ms. Chambers, I'm sorry. I apologize. It was me. My schedule's real hectic. I work 12-hour shifts, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I really do try to make all the meetings I can with that schedule. And I know I missed a few, unfortunately, because of my schedule, and I was trying not to miss any more. I really do try to make them, and I mean, if it's hard for the whole entire board to be there on the 30th, which I don't know if there's a conflict with the school. I'm unaware. I could, if you want to move it to that Wednesday beforehand, I'll just either leave early or take off that day to make sure I'm there. So if it's that much, I don't mind doing it, because that's, it's one of our biggest things is as a board member is to attend meetings, and I'll be more than happy to do that if everybody else is having a hard time with that day.
I don't know, is there enough
Very
time to
hectic. Can
switch
you hear
it?
me? Chrissy, it's Pat. I know your schedule's hectic. I think I was more concerned with the email came out, we were told when it was going to be. And I don't feel that as a board of the whole, we were given an opportunity to speak on this, to decide if it was convenient for everybody. And the fact that it was thrown to a Friday night, which in my 10-year history on this board, which is going to be almost 9 years, we've never had a board meeting on a Friday night. Unless we have had trainings on a Saturday morning, but it was something that was discussed ahead of time and mutually agreed upon. And I think that's probably what surprised me the most. Yes, it was given enough notice. Yes, people can try and make arrangements to be there. But I just know, working as a board of the whole, which we've all decided, things like this I feel should have been brought up and discussed and mutually agreed upon. And that I have to admit, that bothers me. Christy, I understand your situation. Some people, yes, have been absent from meetings over the last, since the start of the school year for various reasons, emergencies, and sometimes they do happen an hour before the meeting. And that can't be helped. However, I think something of this nature that was so far out, it even could have been discussed at this meeting tonight before it was changed. Or maybe we could have been called or polled like we've been polled before in the past. So it's just something I'm throwing out there. I was a little taken back. I was a little speechless that we didn't discuss this as a board of the whole. So anyway, thank you for listening to my concern.
This is August. I had a question for the president. With our bylaws, who is the one who creates special meetings or changes the dates? Does that rest with the president? How does that work? Because I didn't look at that one.
I believe it is
It's
the
the
There was
president.
a question, I couldn't hear it.
Mr. Dalio asked who is the person who schedules special meetings or when meeting dates have to be changed? And the answer to that is the president of the board. That's the question, and that was the answer.
I just wanted, I wanted clarity on that. That's all I wanted. That's it.
And
Thank
Pat,
you.
like I said, I'm sorry. I thought there was enough time for everybody to adjust their schedules going forward, if this has to
Can't be
happen.
heard, Betty Ann. I can't hear you.
Yeah, we're,
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me now?
no.
Is your microphone on?
Maybe it went out.
It's on. It's on. It won't happen again, okay? We'll make sure we poll the board next time. I'm sorry. Is that good? Okay, can we move on? Anything else for board forum?
Yes, one more.
All right,
Your mic must be off.
All right, I think Nick had some stuff on it.
Hello?
Do you want him to go on?
All right, so
Can you hear
I'm
us
going to just
now?
take it off briefly and stand here with it. So this is Kim Hannadell, and thank you for the kudos, but I really need to thank Karen Kenny, who was immediately on top of this, along with the mental health people in the state of New Jersey. So it looks like we saved $500,000 coming to the schools. We'll know for sure on the 30th, but we got an email yesterday that it's looking really good. So beside Karen and her team, there were a lot of testimonials, videos, and great things from the kids, parents, and admin, you know, all the teachers and staff and what was I going to say? I'm trying to say principals and vice principals. So they really did an amazing job. I was able to take those testimonials and send them to everybody, as was Karen and everyone else who was on this. So again, Karen and the community really helped with this. So thanks again.
Excellent.
all right. Nick, do you have anything for new business under the Budget Committee discussion?
Yep, I believe we were going to talk about selecting members for the Budget Committee for next year. At the October meeting, we're going to have our Budget Plan of Action, which we introduce every year, and we outline the schedule of events as we prepare the, can't believe we're saying this, the 21-22 budget. If you are interested, members of the Board of Education are interested in being on the Budget Committee this year. I know the Budget and Finance Committee has a few people on it, but we normally announce the committee after the new elections. So if you're interested, please notify Mrs. McVeigh. I also wanted to just briefly touch on the free and reduced lunch applications, and a reminder to everybody that, and I mentioned this in Little Egg the other night, typically around this year, we have the majority of our free and reduced lunch applications submitted. Right now, we're offering free lunch to all students in the school, breakfast and lunch, through a waiver through the federal government called the Seamless Summer option. That option expires December 31st. We're a little concerned because there's a very low number of free and reduced lunch applications submitted compared to where we normally are this year. It's about a quarter of what we normally see in those applications. And I wanted to remind everybody that, one, the free and reduced lunch applications are integral to the school's funding. That's an indicator for the feds about the level of need we have in the community. And two, for those of you who may be considering the free and reduced lunch application, remember that besides either having free or reduced lunch after this program expires, there's other benefits. For our high school students, if you're taking tests, you can get fees for those tests waived. You can get discounts on home internet access through Comcast. And if you qualify, you can get PEBT cards, which is a cash card for food. So there's a lot of other benefits. We know just from what we're hearing and what we're seeing from the community request for food that there's a lot of families in need. So we're just strongly encouraging you. I know it's free right now, but that program's going to turn off, and then that benefit's going to stop. So I'm encouraging everybody to submit a free and reduced lunch application so that you can maintain that benefit after the federal program ceases. If you have questions about it, you can pick up a paper application if you're more comfortable that way at the high school or at the Little Egg Harbor Board office. The digital application is available online. And if you have questions about it, we're happy to walk you through it step by step. And so I just really want to reiterate how important it is for everybody to fill out that application And if you have questions about it, please send them our way, and take advantage of the other benefits that are included in it as well. And that's what I had on free and reduced lunch apps.
Yep.
Did you want to give a little update on the recent budget committee meeting?
Yes, so we did, in the Finance Committee last week, we talked about two things. One of them was a request from Durham Transportation. As you guys know, when COVID hit last year, the Senate passed a bill that required the payment to subcontractors. So Durham is a subcontractor that provides busing services to all of our students. We know that we have a virtual day where they're not busing our students, and so we had to address how do we compensate them for that day even though they're not driving. So we went with the Finance Committee, discussed the level of compensation for that non-driving day that covered their fixed costs as the law requires us to do, but also gave us a savings on those costs. And transportation's a little bit of a sticky wicket, because while we see some savings on that fifth day by not driving, we're seeing increased costs for all of our out-of-district placement transportation and vocational transportation. So we're saving on one side, we're spending a little more than we budgeted on another, but net savings right now, the way we're currently constituted for the transportation budget, was about $17,000 a year. The other thing that we discussed in committee was the loss of state funding for the school-based youth services program. You'll notice, and I think Ms. Hannadell touched on it and Dr. McCooley did, we get almost $500,000 a year to fund a really important program that touches hundreds and hundreds of students in our district every year who are in need of various services. The state cut the funding to the school-based youth, over 100 school-based youth services programs around the state, and did it with very little notice. So it left the people who benefit and work with that program in a really difficult transition period. And so thanks to the efforts of Ms. Hannadell, Ms. Karen Kenny, who's our program coordinator, and thousands of people around the state who've contacted our legislators and pushed for the reinstatement of that funding, we've gotten some early indications that funding may be reinstated. However, as of this time, we don't have any official word. So on tonight's agenda, we have a motion for a reduction in force or a RIF of that entire program. The hope is that we get word that that funding is reinstated in a week, and that we'll hold an emergency board meeting in early October so that we can rescind that reduction in force and keep that very integral part of our staff intact through this upcoming school year. So that was what we discussed in Finance Committee. The committee approved the recommendation to pay Durham 78% of contract revenue for that day that they're not driving, and we discussed alternative options for the school-based youth services program at that time. That was all.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. Board training, we did mention that there is the upcoming October 20th through the 22nd school boards training. It's all virtual. Nick, how would we sign up for that? Is that, I believe it's $900 for
Cindy
up
would
to
do that for
25
them.
people?
Yep, if you're interested in attending virtually, you can email me. We'll get you enrolled. The district does budget for everybody's participation in the school board's conference, and it is virtual, so we're probably going to be a little under because we normally have some travel reimbursements and stuff associated with that. So, yeah, if you're interested, if the board's interested in attending that virtually, you can email me and we'll get you signed up.
And actually did say that this year, because it's virtual, it's one cost for the entire board, up to 25 people.
Yes.
Nice.
So I don't think you have to, maybe you still have to individually register.
Yeah, usually there's some unique code that you would get so that they can track participation
So
from
just
board,
email
and
you?
you can log in for the training that's required and get credit for it. But thank you for that. And so,
But you need to register, correct, still?
yeah, we always have to register
Okay.
for that event every year, and we'll do that. We'll register the entire Board of Education. As Ms. Harper said, it's a single registration for the entire board, but we still need to notify who may be attending, because usually at school boards is where you guys attend some annual training, and you would get some unique identifier so you can log into that training and get credit for attending.
They did also say that the trainings and the sessions will be available for 1 year afterwards. So
Oh,
if
good.
you can attend on those dates, maybe still register so you can attend the training at a later time.
Great.
All right, so everybody has that. If you want to attend, make sure you get a hold of Nick, shoot him an email so that he can give you whatever information you need to register. Thank you, Nick. Moving along, old business. Anything under old business? All right, updates.
Excuse me, Madam President,
Yes, yes, sir.
with the contract change with Durham, is that going to be on next month's agendas for the board to ratify the changes in the budget? It's within line items, but it's a change.
No, the way we would approve the request is on the bills list, Durham submits monthly invoices, and that
Correct.
invoice will include the detail of the compensation for all the routes they deliver, which would be inclusive of that virtual day as well. So the approval will be through the bills list, which is how we handled it back in, I believe it was May, when we handled the adjusted rate for them. But there's no need to amend the contract to satisfy that.
Yeah, so will we get, this is Karen. I am interested in I think you said, if I heard correctly, for the non-driving day, the agreement is to pay, we are required to pay for their fixed cost.
Yes,
And that was determined to be 78%.
Yeah, which is
The cost for the day. I would imagine that most of the costs are staff related, right, and the staff would not be driving. I'm surprised that the staff cost, does that imply the staff cost is only 22%?
No, so when we had this discussion back in May with Durham, they'd indicated that was inclusive of the cost to drivers. And what we discussed in committee was they plan on paying the drivers for that day because they're concerned about being able to retain drivers if they lose time. And so obviously being able to maintain busing service once COVID is over is their primary concern. So they're using payment for that fifth day as a retention tool. And the committee agreed that would be appropriate because we do need them to keep their driver fleet. They've lost, I think it was 9 drivers to resignation since the beginning of school. So the driver fleet is thin. And so because we need them to be able to transport our students, we thought that was an appropriate trade-off that we would compensate at that level for that fifth day because it allowed them to maintain their driver pool to drive on all those other days. And if we come back post-COVID and we're driving all the time, that they have the appropriate pool to be able to deliver their contractual obligations.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
All right, anything else under old business? Okay, moving along to updates, the multi-year contract renewals.
That's just informational, so anything that doesn't have to be approved will be on there that the board has already approved, like 3-year contract, year 2 might be on there, year 3. So it's already approved at a different point in time. It's just on there informationally.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 10, residence forum for agenda items only. Board policy 0167 encourages community participation in every meeting. However, the board requests that the public respect a reasonable time limit when commenting on agenda items. Anyone from the public wish to address an agenda item only?
Nick, do you need to give out the phone number for anyone to call in?
It's on the screen, Karen, on the website.
For members that participate in the meeting, for members of the public that participate in the meeting virtually, the call-in number for Residence Forum is now broadcast on the screen, and the contact information for them to be able to make a statement during this time, and the later Residence Forum as well.
Okay, great.
Okay, hi.
Can you?
We have somebody from the public that would like to ask. We just ask that you give your name and your address, please.
Hi, it's Laura Erber from 205 Flax Court. Can you hear me? Okay. I would
cannot.
first like to just commend the board.
Is the microphone on?
That mic doesn't sound like it's on.
You can come closer, yeah.
Testing.
Would you mind just
Hello?
coming a little
Hello?
closer too? Maybe that would make it easier for us to hear you.
Hello, hello? I don't think
Thank you.
I don't know if it's working. I don't think it's working.
Take it off.
Anyway, okay. Laura Erber, 205 Flax Court. So I just want to start off saying that I commend this district, the administration and the board, superintendent for the reopening plan. I read it online and it's very comprehensive and detailed, and you seem very organized. So I hope you're off to a good start, and I hope students can come, more days very soon. Also, congrats to the 100 students that passed that AP exam. That is good news. I wanted to ask a question about the academic scores from 18-19. I was online looking, and the language and math seemed to be below the state expectations, a majority of the students. Is that true?
So I'll address that briefly. It's not necessarily an agenda item, but I would like to answer you, to the best of my ability. And anything that we can't, we're going to have Ms. Frasca give you a detailed analysis. We do give presentations on all of our assessments and trends throughout the year. In terms of language arts, we are still a little lower than we'd like to be. However, we've been progressing each year, and we're really pleased with that. In regards to math, I agree 100% with you that we are not anywhere near where we need to be. We have made some administrative changes this year, and we are getting the support from Mr. Baronato, who works at Little Leg as an administrator. He has been hired as a shared service to oversee those departments to ensure that they're following the state standards, that there's more rigor, that they're assessed online so we can monitor the data. But yes, I agree 100% that our math scores are not up to par, and we have a plan in place for that. And language arts, we have been progressively getting better each year, so we are pleased with those results. But I can get you all of that data, or Ms. Frasca can email that to you.
Okay, and I wondered if the 1920 data was available, or is that...
I'm sorry, say the
1920
1920?
data?
Well, we didn't assess last year because of COVID, but we do have in-house assessments that we did, and then, of course, the AP data.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the contract extension for which you are requesting, how long is that extension?
So my current contract would expire in a year and a half, and what I'm asking for is a 5-year contract.
Okay. Is there any reason it's being done now, or does it usually typically come toward the end of your contract?
So most, superintendents can open their contract at any time. I have been giving my rationale at each meeting of why I want to extend my contract. I feel like with COVID and everything that's been happening, the district itself has been backtracked and stalled, and all of the wonderful things that we have in place, I don't want to see go to the wayside. And I want the time, which, change takes years. I want the time to ensure that those programs are carried through and that this district can make those strides. You'll see all over New Jersey that superintendents are opening their contracts because of different regulations that have been lifted, and 9 out of 10 times they're doing that to get an increase in their salary because the caps were lifted. In no means am I doing that. I really just want more time.
Okay, thank you. My other question was the agenda-related school-based youth services. How much exactly does the state offer, and how much do we pay?
So Nick is better at the funding, but basically the state gives us almost $500,000. And then the district is required to pay 25%, so it's about $150,000, correct, Nick? 130.
So that means how many salaries are affected?
7.
Okay, and obviously I'm still learning here. Happen to be running for the board, so I'm interested in all these answers.
Oh, good for you.
On page 9, the payroll that's will be approved or disapproved. What are all those numbers? I noticed it takes a big jump in September.
So you'll see September jump, and once again, Mr. Brown is the numbers person, but we are now paying all of our employees and not just the ones over the summer, right, Nick, correct? Yeah. Now the teachers are all back also.
The 9/15 payroll was the first payroll of the year where our 10-month staff is back on, so it's all of our certified staff is back on. And if there's August payrolls, you also have some contractual obligations to sick time payouts from the prior year and other items like that are one-time payouts that typically happen in one of the last days of the summer.
Okay, so it's a total payroll then, the 915 number.
For that pay period? Yes. That's all the staff that has to be paid for that pay period.
So that's September 15, about 800. That's a typical bi-weekly payroll for the board. It can, there are times, there's probably times it gets a little closer to a million when we have, like I said, last year, and the last payroll of the school year, the June 30th payroll is usually our most significant.
Okay, thank you. And just finally, the next board meeting, it is a little bit hard for the public to come on a Friday night. Just going to put that out there. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Do we know if we have anyone on hold in virtual land looking to ask a question? You don't have anyone? Okay. Anyone else wish to address? Thank you. Just your name and address, please.
Ray Bartlett, 11 White Oak Lane, Little Egg Harbor. Good evening, board and Dr. McCooley and guests. Just a quick question from the superintendent's update that you gave at the beginning of the meeting. You mentioned how the shared services positions have saved money, and so I'll step away from that speaker. So I'm wondering if that's just in the line item of your salary, or is that overall? Because I'm pretty sure our taxes have gone up every year in the past 2 years, like $700,000 a year, according to the budget. And then I guess along with that question is, just if you could elaborate on that, and just where is the savings? Because the taxes are still going up, even with fewer students and fewer teachers.
So no, that's a great question, and we have that information. We have gone over these numbers before at previous board meetings. So my salary is only one piece of that, and really in the extensive budget that we have, my salary is quite insignificant, but let's just say I was in a shared service. My portion of the salary here is $94,000. For a district this size, the average superintendent salary is at least $150,000. So there's a savings right there. Mr. Brown is a shared BA. So if we had to have a BA in each district, same story. We have the special ed director is saved. We have a part-time director for those math and science positions that we would have had to replace a full-time body. But Mr. Brown has prepared in each school district a spreadsheet that has shown all of those savings. And I can definitely get that to you. So in terms of the taxes going up, we've given those presentations. Salary is only one piece of that. There's a lot of factors to include in that, including like ratables and things like that. And Mr. Brown, maybe you can jump in on this.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of that, Mr. Bartlett, is that we've been cut funding. So the taxes are, with the new School Funding Reform Act, they're shifting the state's portion where they would provide us through state aid a certain amount of money every year. And they've reduced that number.
And they reduced it by 200,000?
No, last year it was greater than that.
Last year was greater?
Yeah,
this year was 200,000?
No, this year will be the most significant cut. I'll get you the info. We have projections for the 7 years over what the cuts are every year. But Pinelands will lose over $1 million in funding over that 7-year period. And so the biggest shift that's happening right now is the state is shifting the responsibility that typically came through state aid, and they're shifting that to something they call the local fair share. And so that's the biggest reason we're seeing tax increases in this area, is because the local fair share is going up while the state's contribution is going down.
And is the state contribution based on number of students
So
or a lot of things?
Well, the easy answer is it's a lot of things, but what you'll hear, the talking points that come from Trenton is the funding is following the kids. So if you look at where the districts that have been cut around the state, we see in a lot of schools who over the last 10 years have seen little to no growth in enrollment or declines in enrollment over that time. They're seeing the most significant cuts, like Brick and Tom's River as other examples have been cut really significantly as well.
Can you talk a little bit about the adequacy also, like where we have to go to 2% at least when you're under adequacy?
In Little Egg Harbor, we
Yes.
do. So
Right.
in Little Egg Harbor, we're below adequacy by the state's definition, meaning they determine what's a local fair share for the town, and then we have an amount that we pay in taxes that can only go up plus 2% per that state cap rule. So if that amount is below what the state determines to be the adequacy budget, then the state requires us to go to 2%. Here, the districts above adequacy at Pinelands But again, we're getting cut significant amount of money that we have to turn to the ratepayers to pick up. And the biggest challenge is salary and health benefits make up 73 or 74% of the budget. We have, not just in administrative staff, but among all of our educators and support staff, we're contractually obligated to, because of their raises in their contract, to give that, and I don't remember the percentages off the top of my head, but we can get you the information. Those increases in salary and health benefit costs for the entire staff are greater than the amount of money we can raise by going to 2%. And so the only way we can go above that is if we get certain waivers from the state, either because the cost of health benefits has gone up significantly, or because, what's the other waivers for, I'm at a loss right now. But there's a couple different waivers that, and I'll get you more detail on it, that you can go above 2% for.
Can I add something as well? Is that all right?
Yes.
So also the state has a funding formula, they don't follow it. So they've been underfunding as well. So now they're underfunding the underfunding. So it's a process, unfortunately. So all those factors, even though they have all these factors that add up to something, they don't give us that money. So the second thing is, that's one reason why we went for the reorg money, because even though we're doing all these shared services, we're still duplicating a lot of services. So if we could get to determining that a reorg to a single district would save us money, then we could actually do it. So that's.
We also do a lot of shared services with Tuckerton, Eagleswood. We were with Bass River, and now, Little Lake has Bass River students. So with a budget that we're always going into under without enough money, we're trying any way that we can to get creative. I've shown in both district charts where in both districts we are down administrative staff because we're half of a person. So we're here and we're there. So, we're, as I said, if you look at my total salary combined, and please, I have the research, you're welcome to it. I am making a superintendent salary, but I have two of everything, 2 boards, 2 budgets, 2 everything. So, I know that there's been some chatter about, are these shared services really saving money? They are, and you're welcome to see the information on that.
Have there been additional positions created to assist you in your half role?
And I know that has been chatter about that.
And that's why I'm asking you right to your face.
No, this is great. So I did a presentation on this, and we had the bodies actually from 3 years ago in the positions for, like, Ms. Frasca, for example. She was the director of curriculum and instruction, a supervisor of that, and then she became the director. And now she's the assistant superintendent, but that director position's gone. She's merely just changed her title. And then the supervisor that she used to be a couple years ago doesn't exist anymore. So her title has been changed, but overall in both districts, there are less administrators working.
Any other positions that were created, or is that it?
In this district, no. I know in Little Egg we have a couple coaching positions, but those are paid out of grant money. So if the grant went away, the position would go away.
I'm just talking more administrative. I see your salary. 94 and 94, is that right?
Yes, correct.
I get that. I'm wondering if there's other support staff that are new, so it's additional administrative funds.
Nope, and I have the charts already done because board members have asked in both districts. I can send those to you if you weren't at that board meeting. You'll see like full-time bodies a few years ago, and now on this side where we're currently, there's a lot of half-time bodies. So if you count them all up, we're down administrators.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Just a second, please. Can we wipe that mic off, please, before we hand it to another person? Thank you. Probably a good idea when speaking with a mic that you're wearing your mask, okay? I didn't want to interrupt you, but we want to be
Much
safe.
easier without the mask. Piggyback to Ray's question, the supervisor, director, and supervisor that you said positions were eliminated, where are those duties being performed? 'Cause I'm
So
concerned.
that's a great question, and I think there's a little interference there. So those duties are still being formed by the administrative team. We're just doing more with less. So for example, Ms. Frasca now has her job as director, assistant superintendent, whatever you want to call it, where she oversees everything, and she still oversees the language arts and social studies department, where in the past there was a specific supervisor just for those departments. there were more assistant superintendents in the past. Now there's less. So instead of the assistant superintendent having 2 departments and a grade level, now they may have 2 departments and 2 grade levels to do discipline with. So there's just less people doing all of the same responsibilities. And we are up enrollment in both districts as well.
Okay, and the supervisory roles are for curriculum, right?
Not necessarily, they would oversee departments, they would help them get supplies, they do department meetings with them. They have a multitude of responsibilities.
Okay, are there supervisors for each discipline?
Not anymore, no. Ms. Fresca has, she oversees all of the instruction and many other duties, and she has social studies and language arts. And then Mr. Baronato, who works at Little Egg as the assistant superintendent, comes over here as a shared person and oversees math and science.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have wandered outside the realm of residence forum agenda items only. This is a good exchange of information and everything, but we need to stick to agenda items only. Please, if you want to, come on up. Thank you.
Joanna Bartlett, 11 White Oak Lane. Just want to say that October 30th is a football game here. So before you plan meetings, maybe might be a good idea to not plan it on the night of a home football game. That's obviously a bad time for hopefully everybody. So just a thought there.
I didn't catch your name, I'm sorry.
Joanna Bartlett.
Thank you, Ms. Bartlett.
Thank you. Anybody in virtual land looking to ask a question? No? Anyone else from the audience who would like to ask a question on agenda items only? Okay, moving along to committee reports. Can I have a motion to, just get my eyeballs on here, to approve instructional items A1 through A6? A motion, please.
Second.
Second, Rachel? Any questions?
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of questions.
Okay, Tommy Rossetti has a whole bunch of questions, so speak up, please.
Sorry, I'm normally pretty loud. I usually don't need this. In regards to the random drug testing policy, I asked a ton of questions, and I apologize. It seems like a lot of the answers I received were just had more questions.
Okay.
It left me with more questions.
I'm going to take this off so you can hear me. I'm sorry.
So I guess the big question is, why are we proposing this? And what data do we have specifically for Pinelands to support removing this?
Great, that's a great question. So as an administrative team, we looked at the data and the policy for the past couple years to see if it was something that was effective. So let's take last year, for example. From September to, this is 2 years ago, from September to May, because it was basically a full year. We didn't really have a full year this last year. We tested randomly 130 students. Only 11 of those came back positive. So
Is that 2018?
this is 18-19, and then for 19-20, we tested 136 students, and 14 were positive. Now you have to understand, when these students are randomly selected because they play a sport or go to an activity, that's how they get in the pool of candidates that can be randomly drug tested. They're pulled out of instruction for at least 20 minutes. They go to the nurse, they have to sit, they have to go down there with the company and sit for at least 20 minutes, and they're losing instruction. So from what we're seeing, to drug test all of those students and only have a small percentage actually come back positive, it's not productive to the overall student population. And we can use that funds that we use for this to service those students that have an issue with drug abuse. We still can test a student that we think is under the influence at any time. But based on the numbers we're seeing, we feel like it's more of an interruption to their instruction than it is beneficial.
I thought student athletes was mandatory, that there had to be some kind of drug testing for them to play.
No, this is part of if they participate in a sport, if they go to a school dance, if they drive to school, then their name gets put in this pot for random drug testing.
And you said, you mentioned cost, budgeting. So how much are we talking that is costing?
I don't know if Karen Kenny's on here. She has the total budget, and I don't want to misspeak on that.
I am here. It's 5,000 a year
5,000 a year.
for random drug testing.
So I think that's what's in the budget. Is that what we actually spend? I don't know.
Yes, I'll speak back to the budget. So when someone else goes out for suspicion of drug being under the influence, that's another line item in our budget. And we've exceeded in that area of the budget, sending students out when they're under the influence, but they're both coming out of that medical line item. So the 5,000 is what we anticipate each month because we have a certain amount allocated for up to 20 students being tested. But on top of that, we also have money budgeted, which is well beyond that, for students that are under the influence that we may send out.
The other thing to Karen and Mr. Poklakua, and I know, Karen and Mr. Rossetti, and I know Pat had some questions. So out of the 11 that actually were tested positive, we have had families that, instead of assisting through the problem, have gone out and gotten medical marijuana cards. So I'm not really sure that it was an effective use of our
So
policy.
what about those families that didn't know?
I'm sorry?
So what about the families that didn't know?
That
but
didn't.
because of this, now a parent knows what their child
Right,
is
and
doing.
listen, we may have caught them anyway because they may have come to school under the influence. I see what you're saying. And listen, it's not a significant amount of money. We felt more it was a disruption to those 140 students to get pulled out, out of their classes. And then they have to get tested again if if there was a concern. So if the board overall feels that this is still an effective policy, we completely understand that. We were looking at it more from a collective standpoint.
This is Karen?
Yep.
If it's a classroom disruption concern, these are students that in the pool, most of them are athletes and participates in their clubs or after-school activities. It would seem to me that we could adjust the program such that class is over, before you go to your activity, you're going to stop in at the nurse's office and, you've been randomly selected.
Well, Karen can jump in, but I don't think that's how this works. It's random because you don't know when they're coming, so they can come at any point in the day. So I don't know if that would...
If I can jump in,
Yep.
It's Karen Kenny from the guidance department. It is random. They come at any part of the day, and in fact, it's not just people that play sports. It's for a parking permit. It's to go to
homecoming,
participating in different, dances and the school play, and so there's different schedules that you're talking about.
So Nick, what does that work out to? 130 and 7 is what, 2%? Am I right? Is that the number?
Well,
What do you-
14 out of 130 is more than 10%.
Yeah.
10% of what?
We had
I'm sorry.
130 tested one year and 11 were positive. And then one year we had 136 and 14 were positive.
Out of about 1,600 kids,
Yes.
1,550.
This is Pat, participating virtually. I noticed in the chat that Will Sunderman just sent the board a message for all of us to see, that the NJSIAA requires all student athletes to agree to be randomly tested. So maybe that's what Mr. Rossetti was referring to. I wanted to know, is there any data available for those students that did test positively? Were they rehabilitated? Because I know the steps, the intervention steps in that policy are very explicit. They're laid out as far as level 1, level 2, level 3, and so on. Do we have any data on, was there any rehabilitation? Did they have to reach a second level when they were retested? So, things like that. Was there anything positive that came out of it from the ones that did test positive?
Karen, do you have any information on the number of students that tested positive?
So back to the number, so the 18-19 where we had the 11 students, 3 were repeat offenders and ended up, I believe 1 or 2 of them actually went into a facility. And as far as the method afterwards, so once they test positive, they then meet with our student assistance counselor who then works with them for multiple sessions and goes through, the different benefits, of being drug-free and, changing some things. I do believe that Dr. McCooley and I spoke about this, that there are students that are using, and I don't necessarily know if the random drug testing, the fear of that is making them not use. I've seen parents opt their children out of participating in activities and saying, well, you know what, they don't need a parking permit, I'm signing them off that. So I do think really focusing our energy on the prevention and trying to connect and engage in students instead of pulling them out of the classes each month and having them sit out in the hallway to go into the nurse's office for the drug testing. That whole environment has been a little stressful, I think, for the students when the averages over 90% are not positive.
So are you adding that money in your
Can I
head?
have a word?
Sorry?
Mr. Williams, can I have a word?
Go ahead, Tom.
Yes, the number of students that we have tested, and yes, according to NJSIAA, they all have to be available for testing to participate in sports. We spread that a little bit further with other activities within the school, but 14 and 11, how many kids have been saved? How many kids are not doing drugs because of this? And in our communities collectively, just look at the number of lost children, one saved, as a bigger value than $5,000 to me, and I would hope to all the parents in our community. It's a sad state of affairs to have to be in. However, we need to take whatever precautionary measures or deterrent measures that can be taken, and they are required to attend certain amount of meetings. If they come back hot, they continue with the sports program, even though there's a time period they can't participate, but they are, kept in because everybody wanted it to be rehabilitative, not punitive. And as one board member, I think it would be sad to go away from it.
I think that might
Thank
be Mr. Williams, I think that might be part of the point, though. We don't know that it has saved anyone.
We don't know that it hasn't.
The numbers that you're seeing, those are multiple offenders in those also. And we do have a lot of programs in place in the school for those students that do have substance abuse.
But it's not one or the other. We can have both.
Absolutely.
We can have a drug-free, positive school culture and still have drug testing. You said that there's no proof that it didn't work. Well, all right, well, there's no proof. Sorry, you said there's no proof that it did work, so then there's no proof that it didn't work.
Right, absolutely.
And I did a lot of research on this. I looked it up, and, it's all been mixed reviews. There's nothing conclusive that I found one way or the other. But from everything that I've read, it's like, it's not just one thing. You need this and that. So I agree with Mr. Williams. I think, I look at it like 25 lives saved. Even though that may not be the case, it's just, I would be remiss to be like, no, we can live without that. Just my 2 cents.
That's fine.
Any other questions?
Can I add something?
Certainly, Pat.
Okay, I took a look at the attachment that was on our agenda that listed the statements on why, and I don't know who put this together, but why they believe that this should be eliminated. I zeroed in on a couple of them. The American Academy of Pediatrics is staunchly against drug testing in schools. I zeroed in on that because I did some research on the Academy of Pediatrics, and I found an article that they did say that. In fact, it looked like that statement would have been, it was verbatim in the article that I read. However, the article was from March 30th of 2015, and I couldn't find anything more recent where they had any other data or they might have changed or continued with that statement. So I found that, a little disturbing. Anyway, there were some other statements on here that the person put on here believed to be facts. And when I did some further research, there were other articles that came up from the Next Generation Village, written August 1st, 2018. And 3 of the statements on the attachment were actually some of the cons that this Next Generation Village did find. Some students can cheat on the test, often disproportionately affects minority students, and suspension from extracurricular activities after a positive test can often push students more towards substance abuse. They also listed some of their pros, which actually are written into the policy, which was a policy that was supposed to be rehabilitative and not punitive in nature. But they did put a final remark here that the research that they did with these pros and cons provided mixed results. And that most of the studies did show success in decreasing substance abuse among student population. They did point out girls. I don't know why. I didn't actually find that research. But I asked for the data. I was one of the other board members that requested the data on the Q&A that was sent to us because data drives instruction, but data also drives my vote. And I wasn't seeing any of that. And I have to agree with what Tommy said. If it saves one or deters one, hopefully more, especially given the state of affairs with drug usage up in our community, and the police department will tell you that, with drug overdoses, especially among young people. If it helps one, I think it's valid. So I have some real concerns about us rescinding this policy. Question for the attorney, does this need a second reading or just one?
So before we even do that, I know we didn't really hear from anyone from other than Mr. Rossetti on the Q&A, and we didn't know there was this much concern. Is the board, would the board like to table this for the time being and remove this from the agenda? And we can gather some more data this year and more specific in terms of, those students that were caught to be tested positive. We can get some more backup information on them through this school year.
So the board did see, this is Karen, remote. The board did share data. It must have been maybe at the 18-19 year. If we only have one more year data, I don't know that we need to table a vote. I mean, I would agree. I see no reason why we would pull this and withdraw from this program. It's already required that we do it for our student athletes. I think it's in the best interest of the school population as a whole. We extended it to not only for our clubs, but felt it was important enough for all student activities. So whether you were going to prom, homecoming, had a parking permit. This just seems to be a change in direction that I can say I don't need to see any more data to say I would not support withdrawing from this.
And listen, I'm not disagreeing with anything anyone's saying. As I said, we had sat as an administrative team and thought it would be more effective to reallocate these funds to help students. And when this was put out to the board on Friday, the only person that we heard from with concern was Mr. Rossetti. So if there had been more board concern, we could have made adjustments before tonight.
I thought we were only supposed to offer 2 questions, right? We're not supposed to offer feedback, only questions.
There wasn't even no one requested any kind of data or any additional information.
Again,
I asked for data.
Right, Mr. Rossetti
I
asked for
requested data. I did.
So can I just say something? It's Kim. I would like to see the data because what we're here for is to see if our policies are working. If it's not working, what's the problem with looking at the data? I'd like to know if there's more data. It took a little time to sink in for me, so I apologize I didn't ask questions either, but I definitely was asking myself the same questions in my head about, has any of it been positive? I'd love to see the data.
All right, so why don't we want to take a straw poll here to have this removed from the agenda?
Before we do that, can I ask a question?
Sure can.
You mentioned taking away that money, that budget, and putting it towards something else. What was that alternative? What was that something else that you had in mind?
Just other programs that we have through our SACs. They do a lot with, and SBYS actually does a lot, but that's their funding. But our SACs do a lot with preventative measures and finding treatment programs and counseling programs for those students that do have drug use problems.
So we don't have any of that now.
We do, but we can reallocate the funding just for those. But once again, if this isn't something that the board thinks is a good idea, we can table it, or we can just call it to vote.
My concern is that we're talking about getting rid of it, and we're not 100% sure if it's working or not. Like I said, we found 14 and 11. To me, that's a win, but we're not 100% sure. So I'm still trying to wrestle with why are we even discussing it.
Can we just, take this to a vote and then readdress it again to find out if our concerns?
That's why I asked for the data, so we could, avoid
I mean,
that.
we'll have a whole year of data, so we should vote.
And how are we going to do that
and
with
move forward.
virtual learning?
Well, they're still here. I mean, we still have them here on an A/B rotation, hopefully not much longer.
Well, one of the big concerns that you stated was that they would lose instructional time. They're only here 2 days a week. I mean, now that's a different story.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll just, this is Betty Ann speaking.
More time going to the bathroom every day than random drug testing. And like I said, if this helps just one child for $5,000, I think it's worth it.
All right, we're
I'd like
good.
to see it taken to a vote.
Thank you. We're just going to leave it on the agenda, and you can vote on it as you please. Okay?
Yeah, we're leaving it on.
We're just going to leave it on the agenda so we can move on. We appreciate everybody's concerns. So it's on the agenda. You can either vote yay or nay on item number 1. Any other questions?
Yes, excuse me, this is Pat again. I have a question. I just want to need some clarification on item 3, the community pathways. I did pose a question on the Q&A. I was the one that wanted to know how many hours the students were going to be out for the 4 days, which was, answered. Thank you very much. I also asked about the cost of the busing, which was an hourly rate. I think it's a worthy program, so I'm not asking the question, or my concern isn't because I don't think it isn't. But at one time, this Board of Education was concerned with the amount of time that these particular students were spent out of the classroom. So I guess my question I have is, what are we doing now to help bring some of this work-based learning into the classroom? Has anything changed within their curriculum, which I know is different?
So I'm going to turn this over to Mrs. Lichtenwallner so she can explain the improvements she's made to this program.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Erin.
So I apologize, the children are eating dinner in the background, but I appreciate the question. And what has really happened, the biggest enhancement that we've had is the data collection. And we have written a brand new curriculum. So over the summer, we wrote a life skills curriculum that spans from 7th grade through the 21-year-old population that we have. And included in that curriculum is a way to collect data on the individual skills that these kids need. It's a little bit different than, your typical math or reading curriculum where you are, really just following the standards. This life skills curriculum needs to be tailored to individual needs. So some students are able to use functional communication or, take care of themselves with hygiene, and other kids are not, and we need to work on those skills for them, even in the same classroom. So we're using very specific programs, and we're actually purchasing 2 more data collection tools. They are just ordered this past week. We've been working with other districts that have these programs established and really leaning on them to see what has worked for them, what hasn't worked for them. So although this is our first year doing this, we have a really comprehensive plan that's going to get us starting with our 7th graders coming in and hopefully continue through the 21-year-olds in the Community Pathways program. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's where we're at right now.
Okay, and actually, thank you for that, Erin. And yes, I'm well aware at the needs that these children need, and it is different than the regular curriculum, being a special ed teacher for 34 years. I think not if this is a concern, my question is really, is there any way that we can bring some of this learning, this work learning, into the classroom to further help the children? So maybe they're not spending as much time, maybe they only go out 2 days a week, or maybe 3 days a week. Is there something that we can use, or do we have the available resources to give them some of this learning in the classroom? Because I think 4 days is a lot, and it was a concern that the board had It might have even been before Melissa was here, and we discussed this at length.
So that's a great question, Pat, and I have a great answer. I hope that you can understand. So our Community Pathways program, these are our students that are 18 to 21. Our goal in these 4 years is for them to have gainful employment after this program. So it's a very small number of kids. There's 6 kids in the program right now. We are working, Scott Beaton in particular, is working with our community businesses, and our job in the next 4 years for these kids is to build relationships with these community businesses so that, student Johnny Smith starts working in our Community Pathways program at, X, Y, and Z, store, and at 21 years old has a relationship with this company so that they can work there independently after they finish. So the 4 days a week is very comparable to what other districts are doing like this. In full disclosure, we've had requests to send some of these kids out of district because, parents want these programs to help this population gain employment after they graduate with us at 21 years old. So our program is modeled after a lot of those sought after out-of-district placements. And in terms of the in-house work, we have started, and I would love for any of you guys that want to come and see what we've done in our annex building. We've created an apartment, and in that apartment, we have learning labs. And the learning labs model things like the grocery store. They model different skills. If we have kids that are working at a restaurant, we have an area where we can bring in pizza boxes and make the pizza boxes in-house. So we're working on a lot of those skills in-house where they have the structure and they have our staff overseeing them in-house so they can practice, and then they can generalize those skills once they go out into the community. And we're doing that 7th grade through our 21-year-old population where they're doing those skills in-house, practicing in the classroom, and you'll see that our 7th through 12th graders are not going out 4 days a week. That is specifically just for this 18 to 21 program, 6 students.
Thank you, Erin, very much for the explanation. It's much.
Anytime. No problem.
And the invite, too. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, any other questions?
All right, roll call vote. Mr. Williams.
Nick?
Yes, sir.
All right, so 1 through 6, A1 through 6, on 1, no, all the rest, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Paklakua.
Yes. Yes on everything except A1. I'm a no.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers.
Yes on A2 through A6, no on A1.
Ms. Palladino.
Oh, are you there? Miss Palladino?
Yes, I'm here, sorry. Yes, hello.
Mr. Rossetti.
No on A1, 2 through 6, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Harper.
Yes on 2 through 6 and no on A1.
Mr. Dalio.
That would also be a no on A1, and the rest, yes.
Ms. Hannadel. Ms. McVeigh.
Yes on all.
Okay, so A1 did not carry, the other motions did carry.
All right, moving on to personnel.
Excuse me, I couldn't hear the vote. How did Ms. Hannadel vote? I couldn't hear that.
Ms. Hannadel voted no on A1 and yes for the remainder. The outcome of that vote was A1 did not carry, the remaining motions did carry.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay, moving on to personnel, items B1 through B15. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions?
Can I just, this is Pat, can I just clarify that 4C, that the years are correct? September 14th, 2020 to September 15th, 2020. Just
Yes,
clarify.
that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And this is Karen. Item 11, the statement of assurance. As we were talking, I was double checking. That link, it's just a blank form. We're approving a blank form
The statement of assurance?
on item 11. It's an empty, it looks like a standard state form, but it's empty. I don't know if there should be a different attachment there.
I can't look at it right now because I have the Zoom screen up, Karen, but it is an annual form that we have to give for our paraprofessionals just to say that they have the right credentials. It's standard.
It was there.
Yeah, we must have.
It must have gotten taken down or something got misplaced with it because Kim said she did say it.
There's a form there. It's just not completed.
Yeah, it's not filled out. The version of the form available attached is not filled out.
Okay. It looks like the link is like missed on that thing too.
Would you like to?
We have to have it done. I mean, we could send it out after the meeting. We had the correct one was up there. I don't know what happened.
It's just a statement of assurance. There's no curriculum attached.
Right. It's not curriculum. It's a statement of assurance that our paraprofessionals have the credentials. It's standard that we have to do it once a year.
Yeah, they do have those
Jeannie, can you
credentials, and we
text
can
Sue
share
Shelley?
that completed form with
Okay.
the board. This is an annual requirement to complete the SOA.
Do you have it up?
So
Can
you
see it?
will share the form with the board can we say by the end of the week?
Yeah, well, I'll get it out to you guys by tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it should have been filled out. That's all right. We have to. I guess the board would approve that we have to submit that.
Okay.
So we'll
We can send them the completed version.
we'll add the discussion here that the board approves the submission
completed,
of
right,
the
the
completed
submission.
form. Is that fair?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Any other questions?
And just to confirm, for number 15, we're still waiting for the state.
So we
for
have
that
to
one?
have this on there just in case the formal funding didn't come through, but we got word that it is in the budget. Now they have to vote on that budget in a couple days.
And as soon as they do,
Then
like
we're
you
good.
said,
We come
we'll-
back with
Yes.
an emergency meeting and rescind this motion
Yes.
to
Make
rip
sure I
the
heard
staff.
that right. All right,
Yep,
thank
that is correct.
Good.
Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am. I have a question in regarding coaching appointments in light of everything going on and depending on what week it is, what we are and are not allowed to do. At what point do we make a decision whether or not we're paying these stipends when we don't even know if those sports are going to be allowed?
It says in the motion, stipends are pending sufficient student participation, commencement, and completion of the athletic season.
Okay, last spring, we didn't have the activities, and we were told because of what the governor said, they had to be paid.
Yes,
That's
that was
my
last,
question.
right, that was last spring, and we didn't have this language in the motion when we approved them originally.
What, the adequate participation? That's been in there for a long time. That's why I'm just asking if that occurs this year. You know, I understand what they said last year. That's what was done. You know, I just want to make sure that's not going to occur again this year. The governor made us do it last year. Is there a way for that not to occur this year?
I don't think the law was rescinded.
So I think what's new, the language is commencement and completion of the athletic season.
Yes, correct,
Yeah.
Karen, thank you. It is new.
I don't know if that changes, if that could change then if we are required, you know, the state comes down and says you have to pay it. I don't know if that additional clause covers us for that.
I think the attorney wants to say something.
Yeah, hi, this is Elizabeth White. So the language that is in there, the commencement and completion of the athletic season, that is new, and it is designed to make sure that the stipend is paid if all of those criteria are met. We would certainly discuss with the union if something unforeseeable happens, but that's why that language is in there, just to ensure that, you know, that those criteria are met and the stipends are paid in the event that those criteria are met.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. Any other questions?
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Williams?
Oh, boy. Yes on all but new hires and, trying to get the number of the resolution where, for letting school base go, no.
So no on 2 and 15, yes on the rest?
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Paklakua.
I am a yes on everything with the exception of 4B B as in boy is a no. And item 14 is a no.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Yes on everything except item B14. Given my comments in executive session and my concerns, I'm going to have to vote no.
Ms. Palladino?
Ms. Palladino?
Yes to all, and I'm hoping to see school base back on the agenda for next month.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes to everything there.
Ms. Harper?
Yes, with an abstention on B2.
B2?
Yes.
Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Ms. Hannadel?
I'm going to say yes to everything. I'm going to abstain on 14 and 15, though.
Ms. McVeigh?
I'm a yes on everything.
Okay, those motions carry.
Excuse me, President McVeigh.
Yes, sir?
Mr. Brown, I apologize. I am no on number 14 also, increment withholding.
Okay, so yes on all items except 2, 14, and 15.
That's correct.
They still passed.
All motions carry.
Thank you. Moving on to operations, items C1 through C6. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion, Karen? Was?
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Harper. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know I've asked this, but I'm still a little confused on it. The memorandum of agreement with law enforcement.
Yes.
What exactly is that?
It's a standard agreement that we approve each year. The school district signs it, the chief of police signs it, and I believe the board president may sign it also. Yes, she does.
And the
it
county
basically,
superintendent.
County superintendent, it outlines our relationship with the police department, the SRO's responsibilities, what's their responsibility versus our responsibility. Did you get to read a copy of it?
I did read it, and it
Okay.
said, my question, well, really it said revisions 2019. So I guess it's
Yep.
kind of like, what is anything
No,
changing?
there
Nothing
hasn't
new
been
this
any
year.
revisions this year. We did hear from the prosecutor's office that they are planning on putting some information about this, the CARES Act, which is basically when the school district is notified if a juvenile in our district had some kind of trauma at home. So they are going to be adding some type of language with that, but there have been no revisions at this point.
So nothing because of the hybrid schedule or
No,
anything like
nothing.
that? It's not
No,
affecting it at all?
nope,
Okay.
nothing.
The last two changes were 2015 and 2019.
Yeah, I read through it. I just saw it,
Yeah.
the real big on the front says revisions 2019. That's why I was just like,
Right.
Any other questions?
Roll call vote. Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Paklakua?
Yes.
Ms. Chambers?
Yes.
Ms. Palladino? Mr. Rossetti?
yes.
Ms. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Dalio?
Yes.
Ms. Hannadel?
Yes.
Mrs. McVeigh?
Yes.
The motions carry.
Moving on to report of the board secretary, business administrator. I'd like a motion for items D1 through D14, please.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any questions?
Yes, Nick, I have one. Under item 1, on the resolution for the bills list, who was the board member that examined the bills list this month? I noticed it was on our August agenda too, and I did forget to ask, so I'm questioning who that was.
You know what? That's a language we typically adopt in Little Egg Harbor that might not normally be used in Pineland. So I may have just carried that over from a placeholder for my template. But that's not typical language that we include in our approval. But the agenda was shared with members of the board, and I didn't have any questions related to items on there. But if there are any, you're welcome to email them to me, and I'll provide you some more supporting documentation for any of the items on the bills list you may have questions about.
And Pat,
I looked at it, I didn't have any questions. I just was wondering who was the one that examined it. I was surprised.
Pat, just to clarify, the format they follow in Little Egg is a little different too. They're actual checks that they cross-reference with, so the board here gets a different format, so it is a little different.
I'm not saying actually, I think it's a good thing, but anyway.
So here, the board, at Pinelands, the board president signs off on the bills list and the certification of the bills list on a monthly basis.
Thank you, Pat. Any other questions?
Yeah, item 12, this is Karen. Item 12 are the contracts agreements. It says pending attorney review. Are they all still pending review?
Now, there was one question in particular about 12A that we wanted to get some further input on. That's an agreement to broadcast sporting events from the school, and whether or not we retain broadcast rights of that through the CAT-I and other other forms of media if we sign that agreement. So that's still being hashed out. So that's why we included that language.
And Karen, to your point, Amy did say it's good practice to put that on there, collectively with contracts.
Yeah, I guess my thought was I wasn't sure if there were any concerns for any of these that we should be aware of as we're voting on them if they have not yet gone through attorney review.
Now, we had a lot of them on there this month, so we had a particularly heavy load for attorney review, so we wanted to give ourselves some flexibility to continue that review.
Any insight on item 14? Looks like a generous award.
It is. That number is a little over $200,000 more than we anticipated in the budget for extraordinary aid. And the team is meeting early next week to go over how to allocate that extra money into the budget.
And that is to credit Mrs. Lichtenwallner for her hard work to get that funding back.
Excellent.
And that's strictly for special education, correct?
Extraordinary aid is for special ed, yep.
And I just have one last question on the treasurer report, especially for the fiscal year ending. So item 5 is the period ending the school year for June 30th. I just noticed on the attachment, do we have a copy where the treasurer is actually signing it? Right, the one on here is just scanned in and he hasn't signed it.
No, the final.
It just seems like it was best practice for us if we have a version with it signed.
Yeah, the final copies are always signed by the treasurer. And you'll notice when we approved the June 30 board secretary's report and treasury's report earlier this year, I believe it was in August, we approved those reports as preliminary because that's the closeout of the fiscal year. So there are no changes from the preliminarily approved reports from last month or in August. So they are as presented previously. And the treasurer signs all those, the final versions of those reports.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yep. Okay, we are voting on these items D1 through 14. Mr. Williams?
Yeah.
Ms. Paklakua?
Yes.
Ms. Chambers?
Yes.
Ms. Palladino? Yes. Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Ms. Harper,
Yes, with an abstention on D1 through 9.
D1?
Through 9.
D1 through 9, thank you. Mr. Dowio?
Yes.
Ms. Hannadel?
Yes.
Mrs. McVeigh?
Yes.
Those motions carry.
All right, moving on to residents forum for general topics. Board policy 0167 encourages community participation in every meeting. However, the board requests that the public respect the reasonable time limit when commenting on any topic.
Let me use this table here if I can. My question goes back to, or my thoughts, comments goes back to the August 19th meeting. I'll keep this up, like you said, where you were voting on a board policy change that had a first reading and then never had a second reading. It was curriculum. And then, and I saw the minutes and everything for the 19th meeting. The August 22nd meeting, there was never a second reading of the change. Obviously, there was not a second reading at this meeting. And what it was a curriculum change on what should be added in pertaining to the LGBT curriculum, which I understand is supposed to be part of this school district. I saw the change that was put, although there was not a link given originally at the time to the change for that board policy. And yet, again, in the August 26th meeting, the curriculum was accepted by the board, and yet according to law, you had to have a policy in place, which you had tried to do the 19th, but you had only had one reading of it. So technically, legally,
I'll answer.
and no, I'm sorry, but I read the policies, and I can pull it up right now on the board policies and revision. Gina tried to tell me that it was one reading. It's still two from what your policies and procedures say from your reading, and I can read it right now if you want to hear the policies and procedures, but I'm sure you know what your own board policies and procedures are. But there was never a second reading, so that's part of a problem that I had, that we're now using a curriculum based on a policy that never should have actually been accepted in the first place because there wasn't a second reading. And then I guess going with all of that and the stuff that is a little, obviously, from things that you've said already, there's been a lot of stuff that people in the community have seen as shady. However you want to call them, they're shady. Either stuff like this that's happened where it doesn't look like you're following your own policy, or just things that we're questioning. For instance, it's like a little bit of a he said, she said. I went on the New Jersey State website to see how much money was given to the school over the past 10 years. I researched it up, wrote down all the numbers, saw it was different. And from what the New Jersey State website says, we're only losing just a little over $200,000 this year from last year. In the past 10 years, we've only lost a little over $500,000 in change from what it's been. And yet in the past 10 years, our budget, again, I know that all the numbers are, well, they went here, they went there, whatever. Our budget itself has gone up $7 million. So we can't account for the fact, and I know that we're supposedly saving money, but we can't account for the fact that we're saving money. Again, there's no answer to where that money is going when the budget continually increases, as opposed from other than last year, where it went down from last year. In the past, it's still up $2 million from 2 years ago. So that would be another question that I had of, okay, I know you're saying we're saving money, but when the budget itself is increasing $2 million in 2 years, and the tax levy is increasing, we're not saving money. The overall budget number itself has gone up. So again, that would be part of my question is, okay, where's the money going? Because it doesn't look like we're saving money no matter what we're doing. We're not saving money. And I don't know what you want to attribute that to, but from my research and what I've seen from the New Jersey State website and how they say where the money is coming from, it's not because the state is giving us less money. It's not because our numbers have gone up in the amount of students we have, because they haven't. So again, where is it going? And then again, the first problem would be just, okay, are we really going to follow our own board policy? Because the board policy says you have to have 2 readings of a change to any policy. There was a number 14 adapted to curriculum content regarding the LGBT curriculum. It was straight out of the law, which I think is a good policy. It was almost verbatim what the law says, and yet there was no second reading to the curriculum. So we're using a curriculum that wasn't legally done. And I am very concerned overall with this board and the fact that we are doing things legally and above board. I mean, if nothing else, you're elected officials that should be doing something legally. And that has been my problem all along, is even when we tried the LGBT pilot program, we didn't have policies in place. So there's all kinds of stuff that we want to make sure is done legally that I'm very much questioning and would like some answers to that.
So, as you're aware, this is public comment. The things that you have concerns about are very extensive answers. Ms. Frasca did reach out to you because after the last time you were here, we saw that you were concerned. She did reach out to you and she wanted to speak to you about some of your concerns, and I don't think you responded to her email.
I'm not concerned about the curriculum content, which is what she reached out to me about. That's not my concern. My concern is the board policies and how we're following them. So it's not really a curriculum content issue. Like I said, I think the policy itself that was put in place is verbatim for what the law says and is not a bad policy. I'm concerned about the way we're handling things as a board, which is not really an issue that Mrs. Frasca has, although I appreciate her reaching out to me.
And then the other piece of that is the budget. Once again, a very extensive answer. And at any time, you're welcome to come in and sit with me and Mr. Brown, and we can go over everything with you.
Okay, that would be great. I'll set an appointment with
Absolutely.
Mr. Brown. Thank you.
Yep.
That's not what the board policy says. I have it up right now if you want to see it. But that's not what your policy, if you look on your board policy.
So that 2200 was an existing policy?
No, I understand that.
That we made revisions to.
But District Policy 0131 says that any addendum or adoption or amendment, anything, has to have two readings. So that's what the policy says. It doesn't say that certain ones only need one, as far as I'm concerned.
Could you read it verbatim? Is there any addendum on any policy, or, I mean, since you're going to read it anyway.
Bylaws and policies be adopted, amended, and repealed at any meeting of the board, provided the proposed adoption, amendment, or repeal has been proposed and approved by a previous meeting of the board. I mean, it's super long, but that's the beginning of it. It's all linked together in one term. It doesn't really separate them out.
So that previous?
A revision only needs one reading, but we'll get you the information that you need.
Sure, yeah, we're gonna take a look at it.
Yes,
We'll review it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question for general topics only? Okay. Anybody from the community? Virtually? Thank you.
It appears that, I don't know if anyone has gotten the number. I'm seeing some dialogue that the number's not working. I don't know if there's anything we can do.
I think Phil checked it. It is working.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Karen. All right, then we're going to move on to board forum. I'll start to my left with Rachel Harper. Do you have anything for us?
No, just thank you to Kim and Karen and everyone else who rallied for SBYS. And a special thank you to all the teachers who are working so hard. This hybrid schedule is, it's not ideal, but I think everyone's doing the best that they can right now, and that's what our students need.
Thank you. Mr. Rossetti?
Yeah, thank you for the community for coming out and sharing information with us. Thank you, Ms. Hannadell, for trying to save SYBS. We definitely appreciate that. Congratulations to the ones that scored very high on the AP. It's always good news to hear. And I didn't realize that our next board meeting was Friday. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I didn't even realize that, but I guess we'll catch a board meeting at a football game. That's it. See guys
Thank you.
next month.
Thank you.
All right, Pat, do you have anything for us? Ms. Chambers? How about Karen? Do you have anything for us?
Can you hear me?
We can now. Go ahead, Pat.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'd like to thank Mrs. Gleason and her club for the donations on the books. I thought it was great. Our donations under 13 this evening, wonderful. I'd like to thank everyone that was involved with the school-based youth services. There were a lot of people that sent in, the information and wrote letters, even in our community. So thank everyone for that. It's a great program, and it's been going on for a very, very long time here at Pinelands. So a thank you to all people. I would like to thank Erin for her little presentation or answering of my questions. I really appreciated that, Erin. And also for the extraordinary aid. That's great. Lastly, I would like to thank the administration, the staff, especially the staff, and the parents here in our community with the new norm here with the virtual learning that has gone on. I personally have been part of that with 3 grandchildren, and partaking in the virtual learning on Wednesdays, quite an undertaking. I can understand it was difficult to put together, and I thank the administration for the schedule and the teachers for doing and holding down the fort. It is a monumental task. But I really have to have a shout out to the parents, because I know that some of them have been very frustrated. Thank you for your support. Thank you for continuing to help with this. I hope that it changes, and I hope it changes soon, but that's only going to occur from Trenton. So thank you for all of your hard work. Hang in there. Believe me when I tell you, I feel your pain, because I'm part of it too with 3 grandsons. So, and thank everyone for coming out this evening that spoke, and anyone that's participating virtually. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Pat. Karen, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, so Pat, I feel like you took some of my comments. So thank you to everyone for the donations, and also for those that are volunteering and giving up your time. Loved hearing about the library at the playground. I think that will be awesome for the kids and the parents that bring their kids to play or t-ball, whatever, and grab a book. So I think that's great. I'm really hopeful that we get good news about school-based youth services, and that we can continue to offer those important services to our students and our families. And just a thank you to everyone for getting the students back into school, from the admin to pulling the program together, to the working group that researched to make this happen, and to our teachers and our parents that are helping to implement it. I know I'm hearing a lot from parents. It's tough, and I think as a community, it's important for us to recognize everything that everyone is doing at home and in school in the best interest of our students. So thank you all. And thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Karen. Mr. Williams, do you have anything for us?
I'll reserve comment at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dalio?
Yes. Yeah, I do. I wrote a statement up. I would like to direct the business administrator that I will send you a copy so you can put this on the record. I'm going to read this into record. I did make a statement on some of the things that have been going on over the past few months. So I wanted to use my time during board forum to express to the Pinelands board and the public on some of the concerns I have. I've been on Pinelands Board of Education for 9 months now. What I've watched and observed over these past 9 months is unnerving, to say the least. I'm still waiting for this board to start what boards do, and that is policy setting. However, this is not what has been happening. I look at our board and I see micromanagement of the administration. Basically, to run the district instead of having the superintendent and the administration run the district. Board members not showing up to meetings. One particular member's behavior is troublesome. I do not enjoy calling people out, but I need my concerns addressed. During my time on this board, I've watched Mr. Williams not take part in evaluating the superintendent, which is an integral part of what we do as board members. All the other board members completed this very important responsibility. Notwithstanding, Mr. Williams also did not take part in the board's self-evaluation. Very disappointing, knowing he is a longtime board member who should set an example to all new board members to follow. This was also an important tool to help board goal setting. Mr. Williams was MIA for one of our meetings where the budget was going to be voted on. The Budget and Finance Committee took extra time out of their busy schedules to work on the budget on the board's behalf. I don't know if Mr. Williams is part of anything that this board does. He just shows up sometimes. He seems to be more interested in politics than promoting positive change. Mr. Williams has, in my opinion, has been nothing but an agitator. The hope is Mr. Williams would be part of making this district the best it can be, instead of trying to make it worse for the board and for all of our students. At the last meeting, I observed Mr. Williams outside the rear parking lot after the meeting concluded, talking with local religious groups who oppose the LGBTQ pilot program. I hope that these religious groups are not being misled or misinformed that the LGBTQ program is something that we can opt out. You cannot. It is a state mandate, which means it's the law, and the public schools have to implement this mandate. Another discouraging situation. At our last board meeting, Mr. Williams stated he would file an ethics charge against the sitting president if she voted for a superintendent's new contract. Said she would be conflicted. I find that insulting because the SEC already ruled on concerns of this nature. Also, the president has been involved with the superintendent day in and day out on every matter facing this board. Ironically, the president also took part in the evaluation of the superintendent and, for the record, wrote the evaluation up. And at no time Mr. Williams took issue with that. Only when it's a vote. Then he states conflict. I think we all know, I think we can all see what this is really going on here. Second part, which is just depressing too, but it's the world we live in. I've observed on social media a lot of negativity too. I have read comments that were put out there by an ex-board member who once held the seat of president. Constant attacks on the superintendent, constant attacks on the board, emailing the board in attempts to harass and to attack the superintendent. Honestly, I really don't understand where all the animosity comes from. But it is very clear to me that this board member, or ex-board member, has an axe to grind. Besides the emailing of board members and the tirades on social media, at one of our meetings, this ex-member was texting the superintendent, thinking she was texting a sitting board member. In that text, this ex-board member called some of us sitting here today, members, stupid. Or I'm not sure, maybe it was idiots. It seems if someone disagrees with her or has a different opinion, they are labeled idiots or bobbleheads. When learning about the texting to the superintendent, I became more concerned with what private information is being leaked out to the public. This did not appear to me to be an isolated incident. So I'm very concerned with staff or board members discussing private board business with select members from the public. Let me make that clear. I recall posts on Facebook by this ex-member that were comments on things I read in the emails in the school business. She says she has friends who send her stuff. I wonder who would do that. That needs to stop, and I truly find this behavior outrageous. When the shared service contract came about, it was Pinelands board who was eager to have Dr. McCooley lead the district. I was president of the Little Lake Harbor School Board and worked with the Pinelands president for, I believe, 8 months to make it a reality. Countless hours spent with both boards and presidents. I recall many times the president of Pinelands board telling me how happy she was and how thrilled Pinelands board is having Dr. McCooley lead the district. How many times the president was thankful to have Melissa here at Pinelands. Go view the monthly board meetings from when Dr. McCooley was appointed, and you will see what I'm talking about. So in a relatively short period of time, with all the accolades and the affirmation given to the superintendent, it went to, she's horrible and she's not transparent. Honestly, this completely blows my mind with the shift in lack of support. What really changed in that very short time frame? Was it power, control? Was it that you couldn't tell the superintendent what to do like a puppet? I adhere to the philosophy on letting the administration do their jobs that we pay them to do. I do not micromanage, nor is it my place as a board member to run the district. The responsibility is the chief executive officer, who is the superintendent. Some of this board really needs to review our code of conduct and board bylaws again. I know Dr. McCooley is doing an amazing job in the district, and it's frustrating for me that some don't. Dr. McCooley mentored under a superintendent from another district before she was hired at Little Lake. That superintendent was voted best superintendent in New Jersey. Then later, he was awarded best superintendent in the nation. Strong roots foster excellence. Let me also add that Dr. McCooley was chosen out of 1,000 other candidates of professional women in the field of education to take part in a symposium in Brazil. Women leaders in education. It was a prestigious recognition, and it points to an amazing superintendent we have here in our district. I think most people recognize most people do recognize that, and only a small minority do not. I'm done, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dalio. Ms. Hannadel?
It's a tough one to follow. I'm going to bring it back around. Ocean County School Boards is having their virtual meeting Thursday night, if anyone can attend. So this is the Ocean County, not the Ocean Monmouth. So this is the one that, they're a great group of people, so if you can be on there, I can send you the link. It's actually in your emails as well. I wanted to thank Erin for her great job with the extraordinary aid. Of course, I already talked about Karen Kinney and her group and all the parents, and really admire all the parents who are doing everything they can to make this work in their lives, and I know it cannot be easy. I also wanted to thank the individuals and the businesses for their donations, and for Miss Gleason for her work as well with her great little library over there. So I can't wait to check it out with the kids. So we have amazing things happening at Pinelands. It has changed dramatically with Dr. McCooley. We have lots in the pipeline. And I was a little concerned with the article I saw from Pinelands. What's it called? Pinelands? I always forget the name. Tribune, the Pinelands Tribune today. I don't know if the reporters, if his conclusions are correct, but I just wanted to speak to board members and to the public about CUSAC. We have a CUSAC. CUSAC is part of the state's regulations for us as board members to make sure that that the school is being run correctly. So we don't run the schools. We are supposed to make sure that they're running correctly. So they really wouldn't need school board members if everything was just easy to do. So we know that they have a really big job, but this curriculum that we follow is so that we follow all of the state mandates and all the laws, and we don't make the laws. We're lowly school board members. If you want to change laws in New Jersey, you need to run for the legislature. And the school board, we get to make sure that things are being done correctly, which, do things fall through the cracks? Maybe a little bit. We are checking out that policy, by the way. That one bothered me. So we will, we're going to listen to your concerns. So please, do talk to us. Do reach out to us. Do let us, know what's happening, and then we will be putting you in touch with the superintendent, and then she'll put you in touch with who you need to speak to. But it's really a big job, but at the same time, we're not doing the job, and I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Kim. Just about everything's been said. I would like to thank also Ms. Gleason for the little library. It's a wonderful thing for the community. We have them up in Stafford, and every one of our parks has a little library, and they get a great amount of usage. So I'm glad to see them here in my hometown as well. I want everybody to open up their calendars soon and look at the dates for an early October meeting. So we're so optimistic that the funding will be restored for youth-based services, that we'll need to be able to come together again and make sure we can approve that. I'd like to also thank Erin and Karen Kenny, the school principals, all the administrative staff that sits through these meetings and make themselves available to answer questions. It's much appreciated, to say the least. I'd like to check and see what we can do about the October 30th meeting, if we can move that back to the 23rd, what we can do about that. I know we have to have a 30-day notice on...
When did we put it out? Was it the 16th? But we advertised, but the 30-day notice was for October 30th.
Right.
So we'd have to advertise it again.
For October 23rd, and it's September 23rd, so...
Right.
Why do I thought we needed just a 3-day public notice.
Well, let me just say that I've heard the board members and I've heard the community. We'll see what we can do. Ms. Padalino did say that she would try to maybe take a day off if it had to be another day. You know, Nick and I and Melissa will sit down and take a look at this and see what we can do to make it more convenient for everybody. And also, too, the member of the audience who questioned our shady activities and illegal activities, I can assure you from my heart that that does not happen. I volunteer a lot of my time here to be on the Board of Ed, and that would be the last thing that I would be involved in. So if you have concerns, possibly misinformation, I would love to sit down and talk to you about it, and I'm sure Melissa and I could do that together. I would love to know what your concerns are and how we could rectify those, because that's the last thing I would want put out there in the community, that Betty Ann McVeigh has anything to do with anything that's shady and or illegal. So I would love to sit down and talk to you about that. I really, truly would. And with that, I think that's everything we need to say tonight. A motion to adjourn, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Yes.